Welcome to another Wicked Web Wednesdays with me, Chris Davidson, and today's topic is mobile. And what I would like to do for you today is briefly review two important points of nomenclature so that when you're speaking with web designers and the like, you can speak knowledgeably about whether you should have a responsive website or an adaptive website, what the differences are, etc. So let's dive straight in. Let's get those terms up on the board and then deal with some examples. Responsive websites, adaptive websites. A responsive website basically works by pushing blocks of text around the screen, so that if you look at a responsive website on a desktop, for example, you might see three blocks of information like this on a 16:9 desktop screen. When that gets squeezed into a tablet or into a mobile phone, then a more vertical appearance comes to play. This is a responsive arrangement. Now, let's look at an adaptive website. Again, when you're looking on the desktop, you see the website that you would expect to see. And then you go and look at the same website on a mobile phone, and you're expecting, if it's a responsive website, you'd be expecting to see these blocks rearranged. But what happens on an adaptive website, for example, you go to the same website on a mobile phone and you're expecting this block, this header, for example, whatever it is, this block to be the first thing you see. But you know what? It isn't. The first thing you see is a blue square. The yellow square disappears completely, and the only other thing on the home page on the mobile site is blue, which you haven't seen before, and red, which you did see on the desktop. The yellow has disappeared somewhere else in the system, along with the green on another page. Or maybe the yellow isn't there at all. So what's an adaptive website about? Because this is really quite interesting. Adaptive websites can, if you instruct them to, load a different site depending on what device they detect at the end that is going to receive the website. A responsive website loads the same site, the same blocks of information get sent across, and they're rearranged on the device in a manner that makes it easy for the user to interpret. But an adaptive website is something different. An adaptive website has the ability to load up a different screen. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, maybe on a mobile site you want to give the user a different experience, and you want to, for example, bring them to a call to action quicker. So maybe you have a call to action block that loads higher up the home page than it does on the desktop. Just by way of example, that's not necessarily a recommendation, it's just an indication of the sort of thing that can be done. Adaptive versus responsive. Lots of people are familiar with this term, responsive. Few people are familiar with adaptive, and the purpose of this video is to draw these two terms to your attention so that you can talk about them intelligently when you have conversations with web designers and the like. Be aware that adaptive sites exist out there, and you don't have to necessarily have a responsive site. Now, a few things that you might want to be aware of if you elect to implement an adaptive site. Let's say, for example, and I have a client actually who has an adaptive site. that the home page on the mobile is different. It's a different page to the home page that is loaded to the desktop. Now, if you come to upgrade the content of the site, for example, do some fairly routine content maintenance on a responsive site, you've only got one block to maintain, because if this yellow square is the first block of information on the home page, all you've got to do is update that yellow block, and that yellow block's going to be loaded to every device. But I have to remember when I'm dealing with my client's website that I have to update the yellow block for desktop users, but the same information is represented slightly differently to mobile. So I've got to remember to update two versions of the home page, one for desktop and one for mobile. Another just tricky little bit of maintenance that you have to remember to do. Otherwise, you get the desktop site is updated and the mobile site is back level. It's got the old information in it because you didn't update the home page on the adaptive site. So that's a characteristic. It's not a disadvantage, it's just a characteristic of adaptive sites. You have to remember that you are dealing with physically different units of content, so you have to remember to update them appropriately. All of this is important because at the end of the day, you want to give your users the same level of service whether they're looking at a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile. And that is hugely important this year in particular because of Google's Mobile First Index project, where over a period of time they have been converting sites to such an extent that they say that they are only going to index the mobile version of the site. So they're not going to look at the desktop version of the site anymore. For many, many years, the Google index was created by looking at the desktop version of the website. That's not the case anymore. The Mobile First Index project is Google signaling that it is seeing so much traffic over its servers being served to mobile devices that they've reached a tipping point there that they're saying, okay, from now on, our index is going to be built on the level of service that you deliver down a mobile phone to users using a mobile device. So we're going to rank the usability of your website on what we see you deliver to a mobile device. And that's why getting a handle on these two terms and the implementation of these two terms is really important, because if you have a great desktop website but your mobile service isn't really very good, then guess what? Google's not going to be your friend anymore. The Mobile First Index project has been rolling out for quite a while now, and Google intend to have everybody migrated by September this year. That's September 2020. So there you go, a quick review of responsive and adaptive terminology as it applies to websites and why it is important to you. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Please click on the little bell to make sure that you get notified of future videos as they go live. And thank you very much for watching. Bye now.